All right, thanks for coming out. Obviously very disappointed in the outcome of the game. On a positive note, Jaden Mangum, he was in the locker room with us just now with his teammates, and obviously went to the hospital. They ran some tests. He was in good shape. He came back, so that was a positive. Just very disappointed and in the outcome. Obviously, I'm not real happy right now, so I'm going to keep it very short and just open up for questions.
Mel, obviously, when you lose 4 in a row like this, people look for changes, dramatic changes, whatever kind of changes. Are you at the point where you sort of have to table that idea of changes until after the season?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me.
Midway through a season, can you make dramatic changes either in personnel or coaching staff, or do you just let this go through the end of the year and then you reassess?
Yeah, well, I'm not looking to make any changes from a coaching staff standpoint at all, and any changes that we make, scheme-wise or personnel, we'll have to evaluate the tape.
Mel, 614 to 202 today in total offense. It's the second year in a row. In the first half, every time Ohio State's had the ball, it's wound up with an extra point.
Right.
How do you close the gap on a team that's where they are?
Yeah. Well, after I watch the film, I'll be able to see exactly where the breakdowns are. I have some ideas, on how to close the gap, but now is not the time to talk about it.
Mel, I guess I know we keep asking you this, seems like every week, but I think you finished with only 7 yards rushing. How difficult is it, just to kind of go ahead and try to be successful without getting the production on the ground?
Talking about the running game? Yeah. No, we have to be able to run the ball. As you can see, you can't be one-dimensional. That's not a good formula. Anytime defensively, if you can make a team one-dimensional and take away the run and know that they have to throw the ball, then you basically have them where you want them.
Mel, you mentioned about not making coaching changes and waiting to look at the scheme, but the numbers right now I think are in 26 games, they're 7 times given up over 500 yards. As a defensive coach, how do you approach that? How do you fix that?
Yeah, well, we'll keep working on it. We'll go back and see what we can do with the guys that we have. It's not an easy fix, but we'll do whatever we can to make it better.
Mel, over here. I'm wondering what you're hoping to get out of this season with these guys. Like what you'd really like to see, where you'd like to see certain levels of improvement, and what becomes realistic for them.
Yeah, I want to see better execution in all 3 phases, and consistent execution, and I want to see us prepare to get ready for this next game.
When you're playing a team like Ohio State, and obviously being able to compete at that level is the dream. It's what you're trying to build toward, but you're not there yet, and you understand that reality. What is that? Can you talk about that dynamic of understanding that, but also wanting more?
Yeah, I definitely understand it. I coached there. I've been at Georgia. I've been at Alabama. So I know what that type of program looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what goes into it, and we're not there yet, but we'll get there.
Mel, I know you haven't had a chance to really study each play, but watching C.J. Stroud and those receivers work, how much of what they do is because they're that good, and how much is breakdowns that you can correct?
There was the first one third down where they scored a touchdown was a complete bust on one guy, and another one of the big plays was another bust on a guy that was pressing the duty there. So, and also they made some plays on some contested balls. So it was a little bit of both.
No, obviously, right here, as you said, it was a big recruiting weekend. We saw a lot of people there in the sidelines before the game for other programs as well. Does a performance like this, does that have any, or do you worry about it having any negative effect on a day when so many guys are here? Is that ever a concern, what's happening on the field at that moment?
No, because those guys see the opportunity to come in here and make a difference, and so obviously, we have a really good recruiting class going for the 23 class, and we're going to. It's one of the best classes that's been put together so far here, and we're going to continue to add to it and have a really good class. We're going to fight, always have to fight to hang on to guys because that's just the nature of recruiting. And we're going to add some really good players. We're going to recruit at a really high level with 23.
I'm wondering about the first half. Chuck gets the interception return for the touchdown. Peyton hits Jaden for a touchdown. I mean, when you're in the game at that point, I guess how is things feeling on the sideline, and does that compound things? What happened afterward?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the game, but but if we can't get them stopped, then we're not going to be in the game very long, and that's what happened.
I was wondering, I think, you had the block field goal, mixed field goal, and the botched extra point last week, and then a missed extra point this week. How much of the kicking concerns, or how much concern do you have in the kicking game moving forward?
Yeah, in terms of the operation, we were a lot cleaner this week. We just have to, make some kicks, but we didn't have some of the other type of breakdowns that we had a week ago.
I'm just wondering, what's the challenge of preparing for that specific team with the talent they have at quarterback, at receiver, the depth of that talent? I mean, is it a bigger challenge than most when you're trying to prepare and practice and get a decent look for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, when the matchups are a challenge, obviously, so that's the biggest thing. The one-on-one matchups, that's the biggest thing because they put pressure on you at every position, and they have a really good quarterback who's very, very accurate with the ball, so he can put the ball places where a lot of guys can't put it there on a consistent basis. So he doesn't need a lot of room. You have to be perfect.
Coach, do you feel like the progress has been made between last year's result and this year's result?
Yeah, I can't say that. I have to look at the film. I can't say. I mean, you're in the left-hand column or you're not in my mind.
Anything else for Coach? Jim?
With the players, are you noticing that their shoulders are starting to droop a little bit more in post-game? Is it becoming more difficult to keep them up? Have you noticed that yet, or do you anticipate that being becoming a challenge now also?
Yeah, I haven't really noticed that. The guys been very disappointed after every one of these losses. But obviously, like I told them in the locker room, I'm on the lookout for any type of negativity or anything like that, because that's zero tolerance. Life's not easy, and it's a test of it's a test of character. For everyone in the room involved with us, coaches or players, and so we'll see how we respond. I believe that we'll respond like we have, come in here ready to work the next day. But if not, then you can't be a part of it. Because that's not life. When things get tough, you cannot fold. You can't look for excuses. You gotta keep chopping and look for what's next and take the next right step. And that's what we have to be able to do. And anything else is just not going to be acceptable. Period.
And what did you think of Peyton Thorne and Noah Kim and how they played today?
Yeah, none of us played good enough today. So, and I have to watch the film. But I mean, after a loss like that, the positive, like I said, was Jaden Mangum was healthy after the game. That's the one positive that I can take out of everything else. Is just need to evaluate it and see.
Graham with the last one.
Another Jaden Reed looked maybe more like himself than we'd seen to this point. I'm just wondering if that changes things for you offensively, and even though you're playing Ohio State, is there anything that, without watching the film, you can look at and say, okay, that is something that to build on against a team that isn't Ohio State?
Yeah, Jay Reed is, he's getting back to form. I think you can see that. And all the positives that we had in the game, we're going to build on those. Whether offense, defense, and special teams, we're going to build on those positives. And I told him that in the locker room after the game. That's typically what you do. any of the positives that you have, we're going to build upon those things. But the negatives, we have to really have to eliminate some of those things that we do out there, some of the drive killers, things like that. Whether they're mental errors or lack of execution, there's no lack of want to, or guys do play hard, but the execution's not there. That's what we really need to get cleaned up.